Hi everyone, welcome to another episode from Legal Connect. This is a space where we discuss, analyze issues bordering on Nigeria and Nigerians, especially legal affairs. On the last episode, I did promise that I was going to start looking at some of the presidential aspirants given the period that Nigeria is heading into. By that, I mean the 2023 decision to be made by Nigerians electing key functions of government, especially the office of the president. But having seen the issues that I am going to talk about on today's episode, I couldn't but make this video in order to analyze these news items. Before I dive into what we're going to discuss or analyze on today's episode, I want to encourage you to please subscribe to this channel so that you can continue to get notification as when we post new videos. And also, please like the program, provide comments, and also share amongst your friends, share amongst your companions, share amongst your network and your community, because this is a new dawn for this country, Nigeria. I want to encourage every Nigerian to speak out, because enough is enough. The leaders or the officers of government that are supposed to be protecting our interests are taken out for granted. And it's high time that we speak out. We owe them accountable, not leaving it for God to decide. So on today's program, first of all, I'm going to look at the campaign manager of Mr. Go and Verify, that is the presidential aspirant Peter Obi. His campaign manager, that is Mr. Doyin Okukpe, was recently convicted in the last few days, was recently convicted by the Abuja High Court. So he was found guilty of 26 of money laundering and other related offenses. The EFCC arraigned him for 59 count charges. However, 33 of those charges were discontinued. The reason why I am bringing this story to my listeners and viewers is the attitude, the behaviors of these officers. This Mr. Okukpe was working under the last president, that is President Goodluck Jonathan. His office was created, and according to a report from the newspaper, look at the list of what he spent the money on. There is no audit trail of those expenses, and these officers are spending this money without no accountability. According to Mr. Okukpe, as reported on the papers, he was given initial 50 million. He spent 10 million renting his own apartment that he was going to be living in. He spent another 10 million renting and furnishing an office. So he spent 20 million for his own personal accommodation and another 10 million for his office. Then the balance 30 million was approved as a take-off grant. What does it mean by take-off grant? That means he's not required to pay that money back. It was a take-off grant. I'm not so bothered about the 50 million, but there is no evidence, no paper trail of this money being allocated to this office created for him. And then he went on to say that every month his office was allocated 10 million by the National Security Advisor to run his office, to pay salaries. If you're paying salaries, at least there are pay slips. If you're paying if you're dispersing money out, there are receipts. And according to him, he had overheads, which include expenses for press conferences, paying for publication in newspapers, magazines, local and foreign television programs, bulletins, media consultants who assist and facilitated the work that he was doing. And then he had 23 staffs. 11 were graduates and 5 were with master degree holders. What were the function of these employees? If you've employed someone, you will have a file for each employee, and that file will state the job function, will state the salary they are on, will state each salary paid every month. But he's taking us Nigerians for granted, taking us as fools, and these are all verbal analysis with no evidence to substantiate that he actually incurred these expenses. Well, I'm not here to talk about what expenses he has incurred or how much he has embezzled. What I'm here to talk about is the judgment handed down by the Abuja High Court. The Abuja High Court was presided over by Justice Ijeoma Ojukwe of the Abuja Division of the Federal High Court. And she found Mr. Okukpe guilty of 26 charges out of 59. From 34 to 59, he was found guilty on each count. And then the Justice Ojukwe decided that each offense will carry a 2 years prison sentence, but to run concurrently. And alternatively, if Mr. Okukpe pays 500,000 naira for each count he is found guilty, he would not go to prison. So Mr. Okukpe hurriedly paid the sum of 30 million, even though he is alleged to have taken 240 million of our money, of the Nigerians, the money belonging to Nigerians. He's taking 240 million, allowed to only pay 13 million of 240 million. In mitigation, his wife and his son said he was a man of integrity. How can you be a man of integrity if you're comfortable embezzling, squandering, living off the sweat of Nigerians? You go out from your door in the morning and you see Nigerians suffering, cannot even afford to live on 100 naira a day. But you're living in a property paid for by these poor Nigerians. Driving cars paid for by these poor Nigerians. Well, let's put those aside. So, count 1 to 33, he was found not guilty. Count 34 to 59, he was found guilty. So he was found guilty of 26 charges out of 59. And I went to look at the Money Laundering Act, which is the 2011 Act. That was what he was charged with, not the recent one, 2022. And according to the report from the papers, because I've not been able to lay my hand on the transcript, I'll tell you more about that later on. I went to look at section 16 of the Money Laundering and Prohibition Act 2011 as amended, and section 16 is the relevant section that he was charged with. And under section 16 Section 16 states, subsection 1, without prejudice to the penalties provided under Section 15 of this Act, any person who, being a director or employee of a financial institution, once or in any other way intimates the owner of the funds involved in the transaction referred to in Section 6 of this Act about the report he is required to make or the action taken on it, or who refrain from making the report as required, subsection 1b, destroys or remove a register or record required to be kept under this Act, carries out or attempts under a false identity to carry out any of the transactions specified in section 1 to 5 of this Act, makes or accepts cash payment exceeding the amount authorized under this Act, fails to report an international transfer of funds or security required to be reported under this Act, or being a director or an employee of a financial institution or designated non-financial institution contravenes the provision of section 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, 13, or 14 of this Act, commits an offense under this Act. A person who commits an offense under this subsection 1 of this section, paragraph A, is liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term of not less than 2 years, or a fine of not less than 10 million, and paragraph B to F is liable to imprisonment for a term of not less than 3 years, or a fine of 10 million, or both, or to both in the case of individuals, and 25 million in the case of a body corporate. So let's disregard section 16 subsection 2b, because in the publication I have read, it seems that he was convicted under section 16 subsection 2a of this Act. And if you look at the provisions of the sentencing, it is not less than 2 years. That is for each count. So we're looking at 26 counts. So each count carries no less than 2 years imprisonment, or a fine no less than 10 million. So each count, that would be 26 counts times 10 million. So that would be 260 million that he would have been required to pay according to the interpretation of section 16 subsection 2a, because each count carry nothing less than 10 million. How Justice Ijoma Ojukwe reasoned that each count should be reduced from the allocated 10 million to 500,000 beats my imagination. As a result of noting that Justice Ijoma Ojukwe has heard in law to have reduced the fine of 10 million to 500,000, I wrote to the EFCC. And in my email to the EFCC, I asked EFCC if they were going to appeal this decision. You can see my email on the screen. I wrote to the EFCC on the 20th of December, which was basically yesterday. And in my email, and the email was sent on 9:22 p.m. Nigerian time. And I asked the EFCC, it is my understanding that Mr. Doyin Okukwe was found guilty in line with section 16 1 and 2 of the Money Laundering Act 2011. And according to that section, he should have been required to pay 10 million each for every count he is found guilty of. And also, he should have been required to be in prison for 2 years for every count he's found guilty of. That would have been 2 years times 26 counts. And will the EFCC be appealing this judgment or be appealing the sentence, not the judgment, the sentence? Because the sentence undermines the provision of the law. And also I requested the EFCC to confirm the reason that Justice Ijoma Ojukwe has provided for departing from the provisions of Section 16, subsection 2. And if they could send a transcript of this decision. This request was made under the Freedom of Information as required by the Nigerian Freedom of Information Act, which I, as a Nigerian, is entitled to make to a public office. And I also asked the EFCC if there is any precedent of a defendant that is a non-politician that has been recently found guilty under the same section and given an option to pay a fine less than what the law prescribed. Because I know that people commit lesser offense and they are imprisoned and given a fine that they are unable to pay. And unfortunately, my email came back, as you can see on the screen, my email came back undelivered. And the delivery notification reads, the recipient's mailbox is full and cannot accept messages now. Please try resending your message later or contact the recipient directly. This is EFCC that branded Freedom of Information request page on their website that you can request under the Freedom of Information Act. You can make a request to them. Their email box is full. So that brings me to another development in this matter. Mr. Doyin Okukwe, up until today, he was the campaign manager for Mr. Go and Verify. I don't have anything against Peter Obi. Even before this case came up, before I had knowledge of this case, I love the guy because he's always saying go and verify. But we don't want to go and verify. If you're telling us to go and verify and you're mingling and you are associating yourself with someone like Mr. Doyin Okukwe, who is happy to squander and live a flamboyant life off the suffering of Nigerians, then I wouldn't want to cast my vote for you, Peter Obi, because there is a saying that show me your friends and I will tell you who you are. You cannot tell me that you are a saint but you dine with the devil. However, Mr. Doyin Okukwe has now resigned as the campaign manager for Peter Obi. So we'll see. This is a rolling news, and in near future we'll see further developments, whether this will affect the presidential ambition of Peter Obi, whether Nigerians will finally wake up and decide that Peter Obi might not be the right candidate for Nigeria come 2023. But then we are still going to look at Peter Obi as one of the presidential aspirants in a future episode in order to determine if this man is worth the effort of Nigerians relying on him to take us to that promised land. Well, let me move on to the second matter that I wanted to talk about today.
Firstly, let me tell Nigerian people that I am appealing to Nigerian people to pray for the President Muhammadu Buhari. Sure. Because today I will say it as it is. Whoever knows President Muhammadu Buhari knows him as a trust person. Since right from the military time, he became a governor, he became a minister of petroleum, he built all these refineries and during his time, depots and others. He is a honest person. I want to remind Nigeria that that honesty is still with him. He still remains honest. The only problem he has is when he trusts a person, or when you tell him that this thing is between you and your God, you will do it. He will leave you with your God and he will not interfere. So the people president appointed, they are the one disappoint Nigeria, and they disappointed him too. When I meet Mr. President one night, about 3 months ago, I told him, Mr. President, people are attacking you and accusing you nationwide. He said, why? Honorable people are accusing me. Say, because people, they say they are in hunger. Many things is happening in this country. People are messing up this government. You didn't talk. He said, Honorable, I did what is constitutionally right, my right and my work. I appointed the service chiefs. I appointed the DGSS. I appointed all the parastatals in this, the ministries and others. Some I come back, I meet them, they have their constitutional mandate. I leave them to continue. They saw in that the Christian among them saw in with the Bible they trust, and the Muslims saw in with the Quran they trust that they will do between them and their God, they will walk with good heart, justice and fairness. What I observe in this my office, any paper come, I will ask them, are you between you and your God, this thing is truth? If you say yes, I will approve it. He said anything depends in terms of security. There is no government in the history of Nigeria that release money in security like what I give to security. He said what I believe in it is what I see in paper. Whatever come to my table, I treated it. So whoever cheat people or deceive me, he will never deceive God. God is watching him. I know among of my appointees, they disappointed me, but I am praying for God to give me proof against them, that I will show Nigeria that nobody that can cheat people. If I know, I will leave him.
Welcome back. I hope you make out what Honorable Gudaji Kazaure have said in that audio. Basically, he's just informed Nigerians that Mr. President has been very, very incompetent in the governance of this country, Nigeria. Why did I conclude that? The reason being that he's only found out about 3 months ago that Nigerians are suffering. And he took the Honorable Kazaure to have an audience with him for him to realize that Nigerians are actually suffering. And now he's mandated the Honorable to look into it. However, I'm not going to go into what Honorable Kazaure has said in terms of the alleged mismanagement of fund. I'm just going to concentrate on what the president, according to Honorable Kazaure, what the president said, that he has carried out his constitutional duty. And what are the constitutional duty that he's carried out? He's appointed ministers and other officials around him. So that is his constitutional duty, to appoint people and leave them to do whatever they want to do. But sorry to say, Mr. President, your constitutional duty is to carry out the affairs. If a minister appointed by the president makes a decision, that decision is made under the powers of the president. Basically, what that implies is that the president made that decision. The fact that you appointed a minister to make decision does not exonerate you as the final bus stop to be accountable for the decision a minister that you appointed, or even a minister that, according to him, that is constitutionally required to be in that position. And then Honorable Kazaure made a damning statement that when contracts are brought to Mr. President, he asks, "Oh, is this true?" And the person says yes, and he says it is between you and your God, and then sign. That is shocking, to be honest. That is very shocking, to be honest, that he doesn't read the content of a document, but rather rely on the fact that the person that has come to him is honest because he's a Christian or because he's a Muslim. When he contested back in 2015, that he was his first time, he said he was going to do this and he's going to do that. He didn't tell us that he was going to guide people to be accountable to God. No, he told us that he was going to do it, and he was going to bring in the manpower, the people, the team to take Nigerians to the promised land. But fast forward to 2022, all we are hearing now is that he's gathering evidence to justify that he has nothing to do with what the ministers or officials under him are doing. He's gathering evidence rather than calling them into question, calling them into order, and sack them if they are not functional. He's gathering evidence to exonerate himself. Hello, Mr. President. Whatever Nigeria is today is as a result of you, not the people that you've appointed, because you actually appointed them. They make decisions under your tutelage, under your authority. He said that he spent so much money on security. Fair enough, he spent so much money on security. What are the policy? What are the ideas he threw those money at? What is the security policy or security ideas that was brought to him that he threw those money at? I remember what one of the presidential aspirants by name of Kazaure said, and I respected him for that. I've been continuously meditating on that statement. He said, I don't have problem with old people, but I have problem with old ideas. That is what we have been experiencing for the last 7.5 or thereabout months. This country has been ruled or directed by old ideas. You don't throw money at problem. You throw ideas at problem and then fund those ideas that you thrown onto that problem. Okay, how much have you spent on security? What is the state of security? Have you called those ministers in charge of security? Have you called them to order? Or you just believe that the stories, the news that we're hearing, the unlawful killings that is going on in this country, the kidnapping, they are all made up stories? I don't know if they are made up, if he thinks that they are made up stories. As a president, in 2015, he was moving from one state to another, engaging with the local population, the local citizens. And after he won the election, he went and sat in Aso Rock and then mingles and dine with the politicians. 2018, 2019, he came out again because it was campaign time. Mingled with the common Nigerians. And after he won the election, he went back to his glass house, oblivious to what is happening outside of that glass house. And now, this is 2022. He cannot contest again because there is no third tenure. And all the other politicians they've all turned into vultures. You see them locking around, trying to canvass people to vote for them. I was quite disappointed when I saw this video that you're seeing on your screen. I don't know how authentic the video is. However, it was done recently. Why is it that when it's election time that you know that politicians realize that there are poor people in this country and tend to give them money in order to get their vote? Why is it every 4 years? And the gullible Nigerians will fall for it. We want this aspirant. We want this aspirant. And once the aspirant gets into the office, that is it. Till another 4 years, then they run out again. We will continue in this hide and seek game until Nigerians realize that if my vote can change Nigeria, your vote can change Nigeria. You shouldn't say there are over 200 million people in this country. My vote doesn't matter. My vote matters. Your vote matters. And not until we realize that and vote out all these corrupt politicians that have bastardized this country, turn it into a graveyard of corpses while they laugh in their glass houses. I want to appeal to Nigerians. Wake up. Ask questions. The presidency is not for Nigerians. The legislators are not for Nigerians. The judiciaries are not for Nigerians. We need to hold those people accountable. The Constitution makes them answerable to us. And every 4 years, we have the power to vote them out. This is the opportunity again, 2023. We want vibrant youth to come and change the destiny of this country. You go to foreign lands, you go to the Western world, you see that people in government are young, vibrant youths. But you come to Nigeria, those youths are struggling with WAEC, NECO, and JAM, whereas our grandfathers are the one ruling this country with old ideas. The world is fast moving towards a digital age. Nigeria is crawling in analog. Even the analog is a problem for us. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Leave your comment, like and share, and more so subscribe so that you can get notification. I know that I'm a bit passionate. It is the way I feel. I cry every day when I read stories about Nigeria. The way people are deprived of the benefits of the inheritance that they are entitled to. People accumulating wealth that their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will sit on and will not finish. Whereas people around them are suffering, are killing each other for nothing. We all can live a peaceful and enjoyable life if this money that have been looted are invested on our roads and other infrastructures. I see governors throwing parties for a tying of roads or construction of bridges. These are not projects that you should be spending millions opening. They are reoccurring expenditures. You leave the road 2 years, the roads are damaged. Every year or every 2 years that you relay the tarmac on the road, you host a party to reopen the roads. Roads constructions are not something that they should be proud of. It is getting Nigerians jobs, creating jobs, giving Nigerians electricity. That is what you should be celebrating. It's high time we should be able to have data of every Nigerians. Record the death and the birth rates of Nigeria. Only God knows how many Nigerians have been killed since the dawn of today. People go to bed with no expectation of being alive the next day, not because of what they've done, but because of what the government have cost us. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me leave it at this, because if I continue, I might spend the next hour ranting because of the way I feel, because of the anger in me. As I said, I'll see you next time. Hopefully, there will be no other substantial news that would deviate me from actually looking at each and every aspirant, or some aspirants, especially the office of the presidency. I'll see you next time. Have a lovely time. Take care now, and bye-bye.